pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. Episode 7, The Dirty Pretty Things with me, Miss May. It's taken a while. There's been a lot going on since this new year. And I really had to give this one some thought, thinking about all the subjects that have been on my mind and what it is that is really most relevant right now. And what I would most like to bring to the forefront and express in this 7th episode of The Dirty Pretty Things, where I air my views about those things that sometimes people think, but maybe they don't want to say, or maybe they're not thinking about that. Maybe they're thinking about something else. But I'm pretty sure there are some other people that are feeling the same as I'm feeling about this particular subject. So let me get right into it and tell you what's been playing on my mind recently. And this one is really for the females to see if I know I have a lot of much more support from males in my world, but sometimes that support comes at a very high price. And what I'm thinking about is the price that it comes at is often not very transparent, because it comes at a price of me losing some of that personal power that I deserve to be able to maintain, as I say sometimes, maintenance. So when a man is looking out for you, sometimes it starts to feel like maintenance and not maintenance, because you no longer become the main person in your world, and maintaining your personal power or maintaining your personal power is a very important thing. So what I'd like to ask and put out there is this. In most cases, even though there are some types of females that have risen to prominence and have a lot more power than ever before, most of them are not the straight type of females. You know what I'm talking about. You know, those type of females that are no longer dealing with men and who have entered into what they call that crowd, the alternative crowd. I'm not even going to promote any abbreviations right now or get into it, but women who are not straight, who can sometimes be very butch, women who have changed even their sex and become male, all kinds of females. You know, in every application I'm doing, I keep being asked this repetitive question of, are you the same gender as when you were born, or do you have a different gender assignment? And I said, wow, we've come a far way since, the 90s and way back when I first started to fill out these forms when I became a legal adult. What I'm thinking about right now, getting back to the subject, is females, single, straight females, which is where I started out within episode 1 or 2, talking about how I feel like I've been minoritized. I do feel that with men, in general, they are still fighting to remain in that dominant position in this kind of society that is still, there's a lot of misogynism, it's still a very fraternal society. The fraternity is still stronger than the sororities, based on the US university system of brotherhoods and sisterhoods. But what I am considering right now is that whenever anything goes wrong and there's someone to blame, the men are not stepping up and taking responsibility and being held accountable. Because it seems that whenever anything actually is wrong, it's always her fault. But how is it her fault when something goes wrong? But when something is going right, the men are still maintaining that they are the dominant ones who want to make the decisions, who want to take control, who want to have the power, who want to be like the governors, the authority. This is a man's world. And I've noticed in a lot of cases that I'm finding it difficult to maintain my personal power, because men are actually making decisions about things that involve me without even speaking to me about it. But when something unexpected occurs, and as I say, something goes wrong or it doesn't go to plan, guess what? Nobody wants to take responsibility. That, all of a sudden they start pointing fingers. And where do they point the fingers? It's her fault. She is to blame. And they start playing the blame game. And that's a very childish game to play. Something is wrong with her. But I wasn't asked in the first place. I didn't take part in this decision-making process. So how is it that when something goes wrong, that you could be blaming the person who wasn't invited to the table, to the discussion in the first place? How can it be her fault when you didn't even ask her? This is the Dirty Pretty Things, episode 7. Miss May, part 1. I'll be right back. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. Yeah, so Dirty Pretty Things, episode 7, part 2. Speaking about this issue of accountability, what I am finding is that most of the time it is difficult to find anyone who is willing to be held accountable when the burden of responsibility looms. You don't find anyone still standing. But when there is something of a benefit, something kind of reward, when there's something to gain, that is when you find that these persons who want to say that they are the more prominent or in more powerful positions, everyone steps forward, everyone wants to jostle and fight and contend. Full of contention and conflict, this society at the moment, and contending like a contender in a boxing match. When there is something on the table, when there is some kind of reward, everybody wants to have a piece of the action. Everybody's willing to come forward when there is some kind of reward. They want the blessing that is available, but no one wants to take responsibility for carrying the burden or helping to carry the burden. And definitely they're not going to help to carry the burden without some kind of price. So the thing is, what is important to me is knowing, because it doesn't make sense to be hiding in this cloak and dagger situation, which is what has been going on for me personally, where people will claim that they're with you, but they're only with you if they can get something out of it. And it's not about the blessing even, it's about some kind of financial reward or gain. So then if you're only somebody's friend, or you only want to be with someone when it benefits you financially, then what is that? Is that really friendship? And that was one of the subjects that I was actually looking at trying to speak about in this episode, of what does it really mean to be a friend. So I will keep that one for the next episode and focusing on this subject now of blessings and burdens. How is it that man who is supportive of woman, maintaining a woman, that what it all boils down to, or it seems to boil down to nowadays, is how much is it going to benefit me financially? How much will I be rewarded for this? So it's become much more of a transaction than actually a real genuine gesture of support. And it comes to the point now when, as I said at the end of part 1, if you're only interested in the benefit but you're not willing to share the burden, and when something is wrong everybody scatters and no one is willing to really stand up, then are you really living up to that role that you're claiming to be taking responsibility for? Or is this just some kind of act or some kind of game? This is Miss May on the Dirty Pretty Things, part 7, talking about what it really means to show support, what it really means to be a man, what it really means to be in a position to be maintaining or at least providing some kind of stability or security in a woman's life. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. So yeah, when it comes to the subject of benefits, discussing the ideology of maintenance or maintenance, and when people are only interested in the benefits but don't want to share the burden. My thoughts on this are really, right now, this is a very significant subject to me, because I'm thinking to myself that if a person is only interested in the like friends with benefits, and we're not talking about physical comfort benefits or the benefits of you having a car that you can give them a ride when you're going out or something like that, that is useful to them. I'm talking about benefits when somebody can benefit financially from being in a friendship or relating to you. That is something that is not really a friendship, then it's more like a transaction or a business. And if there is, scope for all kinds of relating and relationships on the table, but wouldn't it be best if we have some transparency? If we're only in a relationship for business reasons, or if you want to be in a partnership or some kind of investment, whether business partners or otherwise, there would need to be some kind of agreement, some kind of cognizance that this is about financial agreement and arrangement. As far as I know, they even have websites for that. I think I remember finding one called Arrangement Finders, where people can make all kinds of arrangements with people on a basis that they have an agreement that is mutually agreeable, where you exchange this for that. Now, what I'm finding is that there are people who are stealthing, and so what I am not at all okay with, and what I'm concerned about that much that I'm recording this podcast, is that I have realized that for years some of this has been going on, that there are people who will be in your life, and there are some men who are really not, their motives and their principles are not something that I would be approving of. They're not something that I would expect that most people would want to approve of, and this is why they keep things very well hidden and in stealth mode and in secret. Because if they were to be upfront and honest, they would realize that what they're doing is operating on a level that is really not just dishonest, but that lacks integrity. Because if you're going to be around someone and it's only because you want to be able to somehow use this person to your advantage, to take advantage of the person and to benefit yourself somehow financially, like you're turning your friend or your friendship or your relationship into something that is like beneficial to you, a hustle, you're hustling your friend or you're hustling this woman, and they don't know about it. Oftentimes how I feel is that some other people are gambling with my life, gambling with our lives, gambling with females' lives, and taking us as pawns, and we all know about the trophy wife, and some men who just want to be with someone so they can profile and make themselves look better, and that's another way of benefiting. Some other kind of friend would benefit, where it benefits you, it makes you look good to be having this person to socialize with and go out with and show off with. But when it reaches a point where it's not just about going out and having a trophy or having someone to show off with or someone that looks good, but you actually are using this person to create some kind of financial advantage for yourself, where you're taking advantage of the person and they don't even know, they're not even aware of it, that's a very serious thing. That's on borderline crime. And I think it would actually, well, it definitely is dishonest, but I think it would fall under some kind of illegal activity. It's not just abuse. It's abuse of that person's rights, but it's not just taking advantage of them, but it's reaching a point where you're actually using this person and utilizing this person for a financial reward. And if you're putting this person's life in danger and not letting them know, then that is also significant, So what I'm really highlighting on this episode of the Dirty Pretty Things with me, Miss May, is that I have found that there are men who are not just dishonest, and there's women who are dishonest too, but I'm not involved with women mostly. But that doesn't mean to exclude that there are any women involved in this situation that will go out of their way to go around people, and as we call in Jamaica, them are go around me and go around people and do all kinds of things to take advantage of a situation to try to gain financially without this person even being a party to it, without them knowing anything at all, and keeping them in the dark is part of keeping this illusion going. And what I'm finding right now, why this is so significant to me, is that when you're in a situation where you've lost a loved one and there's an estate being administered right now, I'm not happy about what is going on, because what I'm finding is that there are people who have no entitlement whatsoever to receive any of my family's estate, any of my inheritance, who will find a way to try to go around me and to go to my family and to blackmail, to try to convince them, to try to negotiate all kinds of unfair and underhand dealings. And I don't know how far they are willing to go, but I think there is a real big question about, is there anything that they're not willing to do when it comes to finance? Some people's love of money is so much more than anything else, even more than they love themselves. So it's not okay. It's not right for people who are in the extended network, who have no entitlement whatsoever. If they were around me at a difficult time of my life, they do not have an entitlement to take back something without negotiating that with me, excluding me from being able to even be aware of what is going on. Not only that, but if somebody wants to claim that they're in a position to provide some kind of security or support to me, on what basis, on what condition, and if they're not willing to treat me in the manner that I deserve to be treated, are they even considering the needs that I have? For example, my health right now. Health is wealth, and health, without health, we don't have any wealth. I have some health concerns, some serious health concerns, some serious damage has occurred, not only to my teeth, but to other areas of my health that have not been able to be resolved at all, right? And I'm the one who's dealing with the pain and the aches. I'm the one who has suffered. Do they know anything? Are they even interested in hearing about my health concerns or sitting down and finding out what is really of major concern to me right now? But people are so fast to jump up and say they want to take responsibility. They want to take responsibility for decision making. They want to overwrite this person and claim that they are somehow in this position to make decisions about what is best for me, making decisions without speaking to me. How can you really make a decision without considering all of the necessary things that need to be considered, without speaking to the person themselves to find out where they're at, what it is that is of major importance to them at this moment right now? No, it's not okay. If you want to be a friend with benefits, and if you want to benefit financially, then at least you should be willing to sit down and come to the table, or, so to speak. It doesn't have to be physically in person, virtually, online. There are so many methods and mediums, so many apps to have a discussion or a chat, or an online meeting, whatever platform you choose to use. But it's not okay to just be stealthing people and then claiming that you have their best interests at heart, or you are really supportive, you are a friend. What kind of friendship is that? That isn't a friend. A friend wouldn't be doing that. That is like conning. That is like scamming people. And we know there's all kinds of scams and all kinds of scammers out there. But relationship scammers, people that feign having your best interest. Which best interest? They're only interested in themselves. Yeah, anyway, this is Miss May on the Dirty Pretty Things, episode 7. Talking those things that some people are still not willing to speak about, still biting their lip about, and maybe it's in their best interest to keep it hidden, and that's why they don't really want to be taking part in these type of exposés. And so I'm still left here to be having this podcast and airing these thoughts by myself at this moment. However, I look forward, and I am still remaining hopeful, that there will be a moment in the near future when persons are willing to enter into some kind of debate or discussion, and to give some feed forward and some feedback, and even to make some comments on these things, because I know that they know probably even more than me about what is really going on. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things.